And I remember my mother had Medicare, and her coverage was actually better than what people have now. Now people have to pay 20% of, and there's also, they have to pay part of, they have the donut hole for their drug coverage.
Yep.
And when my mother had it, it seemed as if she got everything paid for.
I'm sure they did. And of course, that was before the pharmaceutical industry ballooned and became the wealthiest industry in the country, I believe, and certainly the largest donors to campaigns and the largest interest lobbying Congress for the past decade has been the pharmaceutical industry. And it's not a coincidence that therefore people are paying more for drugs and getting less coverage through their existing health plans, Medicare included. One of the goals for Green Mountain Care would be for Green Mountain Care to be that donut, that middle sort of extra coverage that Medicare recipients have to get. Maybe instead of having to get it, they would just get that coverage from Green Mountain Care. That would be my goal, and that's something we've talked about. We're a few years away from seeing if we can do that, but that's what we're trying to do.
You mentioned a few years. I was disappointed to read that it'll be about 6 years before the single-payer coverage really kicks in for all of us.
Well, one of the challenges of what we're doing is the overlay of federal law and state law. And federal law right now seems to make it impossible for us to create single-payer before 2017. No, I should say in 2017 we can request to be given some waivers that would enable us to do it. So it probably wouldn't even start for another year or two after that. That could change. We're trying hard to change that. We've got a great delegation in Washington trying to change that. The governor's trying to change that. The alternative is that we don't get these waivers and we do it on our own, but that represents a lot of money that comes into the state currently from the federal government for health care. So yeah, we could do it without that, but that's a lot of money and probably doesn't make it affordable if we try to go that route. So, you know, this is some of the challenge. Now, Dr. Shao, who has been trying to help the legislature and been an enormous help, Dr. Shao is an economist from Harvard, a health economist.
He's the one that designed the system in Taiwan.
That's right, and in other countries, and considered by the World Health Organization, I think, one of the preeminent cost containment experts in healthcare in the world, and helped little Vermont, because he knows one state's got to go first to break the behemoth that is the U.S. healthcare problem. He was saying that really to get to single payer, you're going to need 2 or 3 years just to do it. I mean, so if you get everything lined up and then you have this window, I mean, it's hard. It's a big, complex system with enormous overlays, federal regulation and all the rest. So, you know, that's just the reality. I wish it was happening tomorrow. And I wish it was happening tomorrow because it's going to only get more expensive, because there are people who are having real life problems in the current system, and that's going to continue. And as a legislator, I want to fix that. So it's frustrating to have to be told that it's going to be years out. That's where we're at right now, and we got to just keep our eye on the prize and keep pushing, and let's hope that we can move that timeline up. A lot of people are fighting to move that up. So.
Well, back to Bernie's book here. On page 2, he talks about the $13.8 trillion national debt. And what are the reasons for it? Well, the primary reasons, he goes on to say, being the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, huge tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country, a Medicare Part D prescription drug program, the Wall Street bailout, $700 billion, among other things, all of which were not paid for. That's all taken on credit. And we saw an almost doubling of the national debt during the Bush administration. Since President Obama has been in office, we have passed a stimulus package, which has also added to the deficit in national debt. But here we are today with a $13.8 trillion national debt and a $1.3 trillion deficit. So the federal government is right now spending $1.3 trillion more than it takes in.
Yep. Yeah, it's a charming state of affairs. In Vermont, we balance our budget, for right or wrong. We balance our budget. We do that as a custom, not because it's law, not because it's in the Constitution. We do that because we're responsible. As much as I get frustrated with our spending priorities in Montpelier and lack of new revenue, I think that's the responsible path to take. And you know, federal budget is just so out of whack. The wars are particularly upsetting to me, and all the rest of it. And you know, Bernie is brave in the sense that he will talk very boldly and very bluntly about these facts. There's a lot of games being played right now around the deficit ceiling and all of that. To me, they are games because the people who are complaining the loudest about it were in charge when they ballooned the debt to begin with, and now they suddenly see it as a political issue to try to tar Obama and his what will be soon his re-election efforts. Very frustrating, very disheartening. I wish we could have adult conversation about these serious topics in Washington, and it's few and far between, unfortunately. So, Terry, I've enjoyed our discussion. It's a good, broad range of topics.
Yes, it's been very interesting. Thank you, Chris, for coming.
It's my pleasure. And will we be able to see this online as well? Or?
Yes, it will be available on YouTube. And 5 other stations. In Burlington, it will play on Monday nights at 9:30 to 11, every Monday night for the whole month of July and into August. And on Wednesday nights from 11 to 12:30 at night, and then again Thursday morning from 6:30 to 8. And then it's picked up around the state by other stations. So in Montpelier, they'll have their own schedule at Orca, and in Middlebury there'll be another schedule at their local public access TV station, and then Brattleboro likewise will pick it up in Bennington, and I think White River Junction usually picks up the show. So all around, these issues that we've been talking about are relevant to the whole state. So I hope that people in all of the state will take this into consideration and vote for the progressive candidates in the next election. We need more progressives in the state legislature.
Well, I appreciate that, Terry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. And for people at home, I hope you'll tune in again next month for another edition of Vermont Today. Thank you for viewing.